Hello everyone, welcome to Cardboard Chemistry. I'm your host, MTG Labman, and in today's video we're going to go over my favorite red cards from the Lorwyn Eclipsed set. Last episode was favorite black cards. Today we're going to go over favorite red, and today we're going to start off with Champion of the Path. 3 colorless, 1 red, for a 7/3 elemental sorcerer. As an additional cost to cast this spell, behold an elemental and exile it. So exile an elemental you control or an elemental from your hand. This is a nod back to the old champion mechanic in Lorwyn. This is really the only champion card I really like out of the tribes. And it says, whenever another elemental you control enters, it deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. So this is basically an impact tremors, a buffed impact tremors on a creature. And then for specifically elementals. And then, of course, when this creature leaves the battlefield, return the exiled card to its owner's hand. That's the nod to the old champion mechanic from the original Lorwyn set. But I think this is probably the most powerful champion. The Merfolk one does stun counters, but this basically giving you the ability to deal large swaths of damage, especially if you're dumping very powerful elementals. And it's not even restricted to non-token permanents. So it's whenever another elemental. So if you have, there are plenty of ways to create, elemental tokens that have high power, and you can easily burn down your opponents with this card. Like I said, probably one of my favorite cards in the set. I have a feeling that like the elves and even goblins, most cards, most color combinations in this set really didn't have super strong showings, but I feel the elementals probably have the strongest showing and support from this set. Moving on to Collective Inferno, 3 colorless, 2 red, with enchantment with Convoke. So your creatures, you can tap your creatures to help reduce this mana cost. As this enchantment enters, you choose a creature type, and then double all damage that sources you control of the chosen type would deal. So this combined with the previous card, Champion of the Path, you choose elemental, you're dealing double damage whenever an elemental enters the battlefield. Just seems extremely powerful. And yeah, I feel like this is the set for elementals if you're an elemental player. Granted, you can run this in other red decks, goblins. All of your goblins would deal double damage. Dragons would deal double damage. Just an extremely powerful card, especially with Convoke. Next card is Flame Braider, 1 colorless, 1 red, so 2 mana value overall for a 2/2 elemental bard. Tap, add 2 mana in any combination of colors. Spend list only to cast elementals or activate abilities of elemental sources. Like I said, elementals got a lot of support here. Flame Braider is a very, very nice callback to Smoke Braider from the original Lorwyn blocks that basically has the same ability. Like if you're building an elemental deck, especially 5 colors, Smoke Braider and Flame Braider just seem like shoo-ins as part of your 99. Moving on, a lot of, like I previously said, there's a lot of high-powered, low mana value creatures in this set. This is probably going to be the Badger Mole Cub chase card of Lorwyn Eclipsed, and that's Hexing Squelcher. 1 colorless, 1 red, for a 2/2 Goblin Sorcerer. This spell can't be countered. It has ward, pay 2 life, and then its ability has spells you control can't be countered, and other creatures you control have ward, pay 2 life. So, is it Spellslinger? Basically, any Spellslinger deck that runs red is going to probably want this card. It gives all of your spells the protection of not being able to be countered, and then gives all of your creatures an additional cost to be targeted. So I feel like it's not the end all be all, right? Somebody can literally pay the 2 life and remove this and take care of it. It's 2 life in a commander game is a 20th of your total life total, so it's not a huge cost, but it does add protection to your board. Next card is Lava Leaper, 3 colorless, 1 red, a 4/4 elemental, and says all creatures have haste, so it gives every creature haste, including your opponent's creatures. And then whenever a player taps a basic land for mana, that player adds 1 mana of any type that land produced. Right, so it doubles mana for everybody, gives everything haste, and basically, I feel like if the table is running slow, or you want the game to be over quickly, you drop a Lava Leaper, and everything has haste, everybody has double mana, and it's gonna really accelerate the game state. And yeah, I just think it's a fun little card, and I like that it's like this frog, goat, elk creature. Next card, Meek Attack, 2 colorless, 1 red, for an enchantment. Pay 1 colorless and 1 red. You may put a creature card with total power and toughness 5 or less from your hand onto the battlefield. That creature gains haste. At the beginning of the next end step, sacrifice that creature. I feel like this card is okay. I feel like it might be a little bit of a trap. You're putting something into play that you have to sacrifice at the end of the turn. It's a smaller creature. I feel like this is going to be, this isn't like Sneak Attack where you're sneaking attack something massive in the play and hitting somebody. I feel like this is more for higher cost, low power creatures that have good ETBs. And if you run it in like an aristocrat strategy or sacrifice strategy, because you can attack with it, may as well, especially you're going to sacrifice at the end of turn, or you're using this to sneak in things, and then you like Sundial of the Infinite to end the turn before it requires you to sacrifice the permanent. But I feel like it's not as good as people are going to think it is. Next card is Soul Immolation, 3 colorless, 2 red. As an additional cost to cast this spell, Blight X. X can't be greater than the greatest toughness among creatures you control. And then Soul Immolation deals X damage to each opponent and each creature they control. So this is, I feel like this is a fun card, especially for running high toughness creatures, right? If you're running, Tree of Predation in your deck, it's like a 0/13 or whatnot. You could literally Blight 13, which is basically a blasphemous act. Yeah, 5 mana, but Blight 13 and then cause each opponent to lose 13 life as well. So, on high toughness decks, this is probably a card to run, just so you can clear the board, deal a decent amount of damage to your opponents. I don't think you're always going to get the blasphemous act situation, but I could see, even if you have a 5/5 or 4/4, 4 damage to each opponent and 4 damage to each creature they control is still a pretty substantial thing, and would probably wipe most token decks out of the game. So, fun card. Next card is Spine Rock Tyrant, 3 colorless and 2 red, and another 5 mana value card. For a 6/6 dragon with flying, wither, right? So when this creature deals damage, it deals damage in -1/-1 counters, which is really good against indestructible creatures. And then whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell with a single target, you may copy it. If you do, those spells gain wither. You may choose new targets for the copy. Feel like burn decks, especially creature burn decks, will like this card. The fact that, you can lightning bolt something for 3, and then copy that lightning bolt, but even the original, because it says those spells gain wither, so the original lightning bolt would also gain wither, and you could give something 3 -1/-1 counters, and you could give another thing 3 -1/-1 counters. So if you're trying to take down a big target, you give something 6 -1/-1 counters. I feel like is a very powerful ability. I also think it's kind of funny to use this in a Spellslinger deck or a copy deck, where you target something that you're going to clone, and then you can copy it. The clone spell gains wither, but it's not dealing damage. So you just create another clone. Next card. I like this card just because I think the artwork's really fun, and I think it's and the flavor text is very fun. It's Squawk Roaster. 3 colorless, 1 red for a star 4 elemental with a double strike, and it has the Vivid ability, so Squawk Roaster's power is equal to the number of colors among permanents you control. It's like a flaming chicken nest on legs, which I think is very funny. And I mean, it's a double strike, so I mean, if you do run this in 5 color, this thing's going to be a 5/4, so it's with double strike, so potential of 10 damage. So it's not anything small to squawk at. I just like the flavor text. As Sinar watched the tangle of chirps and flames run by, his eyes lit up. "I want one," he whispered, and I just find that a very fun and cool artwork card. And the last card I'm gonna go through in red, a lot of 5 mana value cards in red that I like, is Village Pillagers, 3 colorless, 2 red, for a 5/5 Goblin Warrior with Wither. And then when this creature enters, it deals 1 damage to each creature your opponents control. So it automatically puts a -1/-1 counter on every creature your opponents control. And then whenever a creature an opponent controls with a counter on it dies, you create a tap treasure token. So, this comes in, gives everything a -1/-1 counter, and then as creatures start dying with -1/-1 counters on them, you create treasure. Seems like a very good value engine for, the Reaper, any anti-ul, any of the new -1/-1 counter commanders, and just a nice utility tool to have that actually accelerates you while decelerating your opponents. That being said, that's the last card in red I want to cover. Thank you all for listening. Please feel free to comment on any of the red cards that you like from Lorwyn Eclipsed, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.